Japanese aquarium cheers up lonely fish with cardboard cutouts of humans. A survey finds that 80% of people in Japan want to take leftover restaurant food home, and Japan's elderly are very lonely, and some choose to go to jail instead of be lonely. These are the weird stories on Weird AF News. They all happen to be from Japan today. This is a theme. I just got really lucky. What can I say? Weird news from Japan. Gotta love it. Let's see. An aquarium in Japan cheers up lonely sunfish with cardboard cutouts of people. How do you perk up a lonely fish? Well, this may sound like the start of a particularly silly joke, but it was a very real challenge that was faced by staff people at the Japanese aquarium, where they noticed they had a very sick sunfish on their hands. Apparently, fish can get lonely. I had no idea. I actually think I can help with this. You show me these lonely fish, and I'll go have coffee with them immediately. This could be a new purpose in my life here. Cheering up fish. I mean, I think I could do it. I think I could do this. Maybe we can get them an app. There's got to be an app for this where lonely fish can congregate. Kind of like Plenty of Fish. Remember that app, Plenty of Fish, for dating? Meet lonely fishes in your area. Okay, back to the aquarium deets. This is an aquarium in southern Japan called Keikyoken Aquarium. It's located in Shimonoseki. They were undergoing some renovations in the beginning of December, and they noticed that the sunfish became very sick. They couldn't figure out the cause, and so they took some various measures. One of the staff members said maybe it's because the fish is lonely without any visitors because we're going through this renovation. They decided to come up with a plan to test this. They attached the uniforms of the staff members to the outside of the tank, and it says the next day the fish was in good health again. Now, the staff were a bit surprised by this. Lonely fish doesn't seem likely, they thought, but they did notice this particular fish was very curious and would swim up to the front of its tank whenever people came to visit. Once visitors stopped coming to the aquarium, though, during the renovation last month, this fish stopped eating its jellyfish meals and began to rub its body against the tank, leading the staff to suspect that it had developed some digestive issues or was infected by some parasites, possibly. But as this experiment by the staff eventually proved, the fish was just lonely, needed some human contact. Not contact, but needed to see some humanity. So now there's life-size cutouts of human beings that have been placed, and the fish is in swimmingly good health now, it seems. It's hard to imagine that this would ever work. I mean, I thought fish were sort of not really impressed by humans, tried to stay away from humans because, we've been eating them for many, many thousands of years, so that tends to make you a little wary of the humans. Some fish probably love to see humans. Fish that could make a human a snack, like sharks or something. You think that they might be happy to see cardboard cutouts of humans. But no, apparently this sunfish is a social creature and is now cheered up by seeing fake people that don't really move. The article here has some information about the sunfish. Ocean sunfish live in the open sea in temperate and tropical regions all over the world and have washed ashore in places as varied as Australia, California, Portugal, Spain, and Oregon. I don't know why you got to tell us where they wash up on shore. That's not very happy. Trying to keep this a happy story about some cheery fish. It says these fish can grow staggeringly large, weighing up to 1,900 kilograms, which is more than 3,300 pounds, and measuring up to 3.3 meters in length. That's nearly 11 feet tall. This specimen in the aquarium in Japan is a little smaller, but it shares the lopsided bullet-shaped body and long fins that give the species such a distinctive look. Now, this isn't the first time an aquarium in Japan has had to get creative to keep their fish in a cheery disposition. During the COVID lockdown in 2020, Tokyo's Sumida Aquarium asked for volunteers to FaceTime their 300 spotted garden eels who had become very shy without the presence of visitors, making it difficult for the staff to check up on them and make sure that they were healthy. It's very surprising to learn that these fish get lonely, and they actually enjoy seeing the humans come around and gawk at them through the glass, which I always thought they didn't enjoy that. I always felt bad for the fish in there. Like, these poor fish, look at, they're just in there swimming in circles rather than being in the open waters. They're probably depressed about this. They're probably tired of seeing our faces pressed against the glass. Bunch of influencers coming in there, taking selfies with them, shooting video of them. They're probably tired of it, I thought. But no, here's some solid data. These are anecdotes, but pretty solid data that proves that the fish kind of enjoy that interaction. And once you give it to them, they sort of need it to thrive. They get depressed. This is pretty good information if you happen to have a little aquarium at your house and you have some fish that you keep as pets. Don't think you could just skip off on a 2-month vacation and your fish are going to be okay. They're going to get lonely. You're going to have to set up a little situation where you can FaceTime in and check in on them and say hello and say what's up. A survey finds that 80% of Japanese people want to take leftover restaurant food home. Doesn't seem that shocking to me. Apparently, this is shocking in Japan. Over 80% of the people want to take their leftovers at restaurants home, according to a private survey. At the end of last year, the Consumer Affairs Agency and the Health Ministry together set up some guidelines for taking leftovers home to reduce food loss. The agency calls for adding efforts not to throw away leftovers. This comes at a time in Japan where many restaurants, they say, refrain from encouraging customers or even allowing them to take leftovers home because there is no clear rule for such practices. And establishments can apparently get in big trouble from the health department if customers take food home and then later get food poisoning. So this is a fear of restaurants. I had no idea about this. I mean, I live in the U.S. where most of us just are totally fine with taking food home. It's pretty natural and kind of necessary these days because the portions are so big in the U.S., I noticed. And now the price of eating out is just out of control. So, a hamburger and fries now is like $20. So if I don't finish my fries, I'm like, these fries are like $8, man. I'm taking them home. I'll take the pickles home that are on the side too. I'll take the napkins home. I'll take a pack of toothpicks to go. I'm trying to get my money's worth at a restaurant because when I walk in a restaurant, I'm going to be out $50 just for myself to eat. Never mind taking somebody else. It's easily $100 for 2 people to eat out now in the United States, at least where I live in California. I don't know where you're living and how much it costs. Anyone want to weigh in on that? It's absolutely out of control, the cost of eating out, in my opinion. So you better believe I'm taking a doggy bag home. Do they still call it doggy bags? I really don't like that term. I think it's kind of stupid. We need a better term than doggy bag. It just sounds disgusting. I assume it came about because you would take that food home for the dog, but we're not doing that anymore. This is expensive food. It's not going to the dog, all right? That half a pastrami sandwich that cost me $18.50, no, that's going in my belly for breakfast. Okay, back to this survey in Japan. They asked 2,000 people in their 20s or older about taking food home. 80% said they would rather take food home. But apparently there's a lot of social pressure not to even ask if you can take food home. And, of course, many of the restaurants don't even allow it out of fear of getting fined by the health department if something were to happen to the food. By the way, I've never gotten food poisoning from food that I took home. Have any of you? I've never even heard of that. If it's food poisoning, it's going to happen at the restaurant. I suppose you could take it home and not take proper care of it. Don't put it in the refrigerator. Now you're risking something. But, I mean, that's dumb people that do that. They don't, You can't change the behaviors of dumb people. No matter how many laws or guidelines you put out there, dumb is going to be dumb. So they're beginning to set up these new guidelines on taking leftovers home in Japan. It says consumers take them home at their own risk and transfer food from dishes to containers themselves in principle. They are also advised not to leave the food in high-temperature places once they remove them from the restaurant. Here's a quote from the Consumer Affairs Agency official. It says, "We want to ensure that the guidelines concerning taking leftover food home are widely disseminated." I mean, this is all good and fine that they're setting up these guidelines and advice if you happen to take your leftovers home from a restaurant. But what about forcing these restaurants to allow you to take your leftovers home in Japan? I think that's something that should happen in congruence with this guideline situation. I mean, imagine you got a bunch of food left and you ask the restaurant, "Hey, could I get a box to go?" Then they're like, "Nope, Nope. We're going to actually take it away from you, and then we're going to throw it away. We're going to throw it away. We're going to throw it away right in front of your face. I mean, that's not cool. No, we should have the right to take home that very expensive leftover restaurant food. Be like, you give me a doggy bag. Well, I mean, you might not want to ask for a doggy bag in Asia. That might trigger them.
Still getting around to that fix on your car? You got this. On eBay, you'll find millions of parts guaranteed to fit. Doesn't matter if it's a major engine repair or your first time swapping your windshield wipers. eBay has that part you need, ready to click perfectly into place for changes big and small. Loud or quiet, find all the parts you need at prices you'll love. Guaranteed to fit every time. But you already know that. eBay. Things, people, love. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply.
Hey, Todd, Daddy, how you doing?
Japan's elderly are so lonely that some choose to go to jail. The rooms are filled with elderly residents, their hands wrinkled and backs bent. They shuffle slowly down the corridors, some using walkers even. Workers help them bathe, eat, walk, and take their medication. But this is not a nursing home. Don't be confused. This is Japan's largest women's prison. The population here reflects the aging society outside and the pervasive problem of loneliness that guards say is so acute for some elderly prisoners that they'd prefer to stay incarcerated rather than be out in the lonely world. Hey, I'll tell you right now, retiring in a prison doesn't sound like such a bad idea. This might be my retirement plan as well, because I don't think my Social Security is going to allow me to afford to live a normal life outside of prison. It's not a bad idea. Free room and board, right? Free health care. All the books I want, a basketball court. Then they're going to say, well, Jonesy, what about that whole thing in prison with the rape? And I'm just going to be like, well, who's going to rape a 98-year-old man? I mean, really? And I won't bathe, so I'll be very unattractive. I'll be known as the dirty book reader. I'm kidding, guys. My retirement plan isn't prison. It's, just the plan that we all have, right? We'll work our ass off until we don't have to, which will probably be about 104, and then retire at 104 and have that very exciting active retirement for a good 6 or 8 months, and then die, hopefully quickly and painlessly. Now, in this particular article, they've interviewed Akiyo, an 81-year-old inmate with short gray hair. She was serving time for shoplifting food. She says, quote, "There are very good people in this prison. Perhaps this life is the most stable for me. I'm so happy here." Wow, she really digs it. Well, she's not lonely anymore, that's for sure. You got, other prisoners that you could play cards with, you could talk to, you could have all your meals with. You could share stories about past times when you weren't in prison. You could share pictures of all your grandkids that never come to visit you at the prison. I mean, it sounds like a nice support group that they're having here. In addition, it says these women work in the prison factories, and that suits them just fine. They get regular meals, free health care, and elder care, along with the companionship that they lack on the outside. One inmate named Yoko, age 51, has been imprisoned on drug charges 5 times over the last 25 years. Each time she returns, the prison population seems to get older, she says. Here's a quote from her. "Some people do bad things on purpose and get caught so that they can come to prison again if they happen to run out of money in the outside world." Wow, I can only imagine what sort of harmless, innocent crimes that the elderly commit to get back in jail. Are they just jaywalking all day long with their walker, hoping to get caught? I mean, even if you're going to pee in public as an old person, they might not put you in jail for that. They might just be like, "Oh, look it. Why don't you get a diaper, all right? You're obviously suffering here." I mean, I highly admit it's violent crimes that are getting them back in here. It's probably just shoplifting, these sorts of things. I mean, I'm assuming, I don't know. Maybe they're taking out CEOs of healthcare companies over there. Well, the article here actually gives some information on this. Theft is by far the most common crime committed by elderly inmates, especially among women. In 2022, more than 80% of elderly female inmates nationwide were in jail for stealing, according to government figures. A prison guard says the people that come here do so because it's cold or because they're very hungry or they might be lonely. Those who get sick here can get free medical treatment while they're in prison, but once they leave, they have to pay for it themselves. So some people want to stay here, especially the elderly, as long as they possibly can. And the situation is only going to get more dire, it says here. The elderly population in Japan is ballooning so fast. The government says they're going to require nearly 3 million more elderly care workers by 2040 just to handle the growing elderly population. Ooh, this is tough stuff. I'll tell you, though, if there's any elderly Japanese ladies out there, as long as you put me in your will, I'll take care of you. Just leave me that cash when you pass on at the age of 125. They'll probably outlive me. They live so long. Well, this overall is a very concerning situation, and something must be done. You got to get some support for your elderly over there. Not that we have much support for our elderly over here. We do have, like, Medicare and stuff like that. There are programs. As far as the loneliness goes, that's a tough one. That's a tough one because, the elderly become more and more isolated, it seems. When you physically can't get around or even leave your apartment or whatever, it just becomes hard to be social. So, there are ways to be social online, but it really doesn't have the same impact as being in person. Linking up with people in person is preferable. What you need is ways to get them out of the house and into places where they're doing group activities. And it doesn't have to be physical activities. They could just be getting together to play Texas Hold'em or spades or Connect Four. Or, if their brains aren't sharp, you could just give them sticks and let them hit tree stumps or something. Or here's what you do. I just came up with a great solution. As somebody who plays group sports still, there's never any fans at my softball games. How cool would it to just drop off a busload of elderly people that have nothing to do, looking for an activity, looking to get together? You bring them to the softball games, have them root for, my team or whatever team. Have them just watch the games. And it's not just softball. There's pickup adult basketball games going on all the time, all over the place. You bring them, you drop them off. Next thing you know, you got some engaging fans there at these adult games. I think there's something there anyways. I can't solve all the world's problems, but I can solve a baker's dozen, I think, if you just give me a budget.
This episode is brought to you by Amazon. Sometimes the most painful part of getting sick is the getting better part. Waiting on hold for an appointment, sitting in crowded waiting rooms, standing in line at the pharmacy, that's painful. Amazon One Medical and Amazon Pharmacy remove those painful parts of getting better with things like 24/7 virtual visits and prescriptions delivered to your door. Thanks to Amazon Pharmacy and Amazon One Medical, healthcare just got less painful.
Lonely fishies, lonely fishies, come ho, 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 ho. Just say you will, say you will. Guys into it? Anybody into it? Little Jackie Wilson? Say you will. It's a fun one. Hey, I want to thank you. I want to thank you for being you. I want to thank you. Thank you for being a friend. Hope you had a nice weekend and enjoyed the Florida Friday stories. And shout out to those of you who sent me Florida stories and reached out over the weekend. I'm safe and sound. And the fires today are being a little bit further stoked by some extra windy activity, it seems. So just when we thought we were out of the woods on that, no pun intended, looks like it's happening again over here in Los Angeles. So hopefully this won't be so bad. I hope it doesn't reignite these fires just when the community was getting them under control. It's just a stroke of bad luck today. Anyways, those of you who have reached out to me, I appreciate that, showing care. It's really touching, so thank you. I'm okay. I want to give a shout-out to Ellis Williams, who sent me a nice email. Say, hey, Jonesy, big fan of the show. You did a shout-out for my wife's birthday last May, along with a great video off of Cameo. Really enjoyed that. By the way, let me just use this moment to say you can hire me on Cameo if you'd like to give a shout-out or a happy birthday to a loved one or whatever, someone who you know is a fan of the show or me. You can hire me to do a cameo, and it doesn't cost that much. because I'm not famous. Yeah, like, if you hire me, it's like $25 or something like that. But if you want, Newman from Seinfeld, that's going to cost you, $100 or more, because Newman's a, pretty famous guy. Back to the email. Anyway, Jonesy, we're visiting Los Angeles next weekend. We'd love to catch one of your shows, or maybe even treat you to some coffee if you're down to hang. Have a good life, man. Ellis and Christine. Now, that's very, very sweet. How nice of you to reach out to me and let me know you're coming here. Yeah, come to a show. That would be fabulous. I'll give you the details via replying to your email. So if you guys are ever visiting the area, yeah, email me, funnyjones@gmail.com. I can't always just meet up, but, if I have a show, we could come to the show. And then we can have a little cocktail afterward, something like that. It sounds like a good thing to do. Anyways, appreciate you all for hanging with me on this episode and just hanging with me in general. Appreciate the support very, very much. If you want to call the show, it's 646-450-2012. I'm on Instagram at FunnyJones. And go to weirdafnews.com if you'd like to support the show in any way. Appreciate that, and we'll see you tomorrow. And good luck with your life, man.